Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Book Club. We have been off for 2 weeks now. We had a low attendance one weekend, and then it was Memorial weekend. Everybody had plans, so we just decided to cancel it. But we are back today with chapter 10. We read through the Strider chapter. We decided to only do a short chapter because originally the weekend that we were gonna do the short chapter was a weekend that a lot of us were gonna be busy, so we're like, you know what, short chapter, low responsibility. But then we ended up not having book club anyways. So welcome back to book club. If you are seeing this for the first time on YouTube, hi, my name's Rose. I predominantly stream on Twitch, and I'm trying to up my YouTube game this year, and my LARP community has graciously agreed to read through Lord of the Rings with me because I've never read them. So they're being my accountability for reading through Lord of the Rings. So without further ado, let me get us into the VC and let us start this party, because I have a feeling we're gonna have some good discussion about this chapter, because I know I have a lot of points to talk about. All good things, but I do have points to talk about. So let's get in there. This button. Hello.
Hello.
Heyo.
All right, welcome back. Hi, Tim. I saw you joined while I was introductoring.
Yep.
Okay, now I really liked this chapter. I know it was short, it's like 10 pages, so I know that like discussion is not going to be super lengthy for this one, but I will say I really liked this chapter, and I have a lot of comments about it in comparison to how the books depicted, there's a good word, depicted this or the movies depicted this book chapter. Blech. So anywho, so yeah, let's get into it. So I thought one of the coolest things about this entire chapter that wasn't as much so portrayed in the movie was that, you know, it's like Strider like sought them out. Like Gandalf told him like, hey, you know, this is the hobbit you're looking for, and you know, blah blah blah, and like he found them, he overheard them talking about the whole Underhill name, he followed them, you know, all this stuff. Whereas in the movie it was portrayed, at least in that those beginning couple of sequences and stuff, where it was like, oh, I'm just so happened to be at the prancing pony, and the innkeeper knows me because I'm one of those rangers, you know, kind of, ooh, you know, and everything, and like I just so happened to be here, kind of thing. And like, you know, it was like the skepticalness of Frodo and company, but then there was also like several lines that were pulled like directly from the book, which I did like. And then my last like big touching point before we get into like more nitty gritty stuff is the fact that we start seeing like the poem that is associated with Aragorn's name first introduced. And that like it's explicit, like Aragorn explicitly says at one point, he's like, you know, my name is Aragorn, and those words like go with my name, kind of thing. Whereas like in the book, or in the movie, sorry, in the movie, we don't really get that black and white description of, you know, those original words that Arwen says when she's like, reforge the sword, whether by your will or not, there is no ship that can bear me hence. That was a very accurate, it was uncanny resemblance. Thank you. But like that whole scene, like she says, you know, that first bit, but like you don't really know that that's like, you know, unless you know the books. I knew it because I think my brothers told me that, like, you know, way back many years ago, like that was like a poem that goes with his name and stuff. But I didn't know, like, if I was strictly you know, watching the movies with no context, no nothing, I would have had no idea that had, you know, association with his name. Maybe like some stretch context clues, but you guys get what I mean. Okay, right. So What is everybody else's thoughts on this chapter? Again, I know it's short, so I know we're not going to be talking for very, very long, but what did we like? What did we didn't like? What do we like about this chapter depicted in the book versus how they did in the movie? All that good jazz. Thoughts, go. Somebody, take the stage.
I'm always struck by how, well, not how different, but Aragorn is a little different. His personality is a little different initially in the books than it is in the movies. In the movies, he's a lot more, um, grim and quiet, and I don't think I remember him smiling for like the first movie. But in this one,
he does smile when the hobbits are training with Boromir.
Okay, that's true.
That's true.
That's true. But other than that, he smiles more in this chapter, or at least smirks more in this chapter than he does, I think, almost in the entire movie, even like Return of the King.
No, that is very true. I also appreciate how in the novel, Aragorn is clearly less apprehensive about being king. He straight up says that the sword will be reforged.
Yeah.
And he's the poem that speaks of him speaks of a crown that is hidden. So he knows that like it's his right to be a king. He's not denying it. He's not like, oh no, that's not for me. He's just like, well, I mean, in time. Like,
yeah.
I'm older than I look.
Well, and to your point, Tim, like in the movie, you don't know that he is Aragorn, son of Arathorn, until Legolas says it to Boromir. Yeah. At least from like if you were Frodo, like, in the Council of Elrond, it's like, in the movie, Frodo's like not necessarily like taken aback, but kind of like, whoa, like did not realize this guy was some, hot stuff. I mean, other than the obvious. But like, Frodo doesn't think he's any like celebrity. He just thinks he's kind of this like ranger, knows the wilds, etc. And was their guide to get them to Rivendell. Because he just goes by Strider, like, when they're on Weathertop, like Sam even like calls out to him as Strider and stuff like that. Like, he goes by that nickname, alias, whatever you want to call it. And I agree with you there. Is like, he even, he says like, I'm Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and like, all that jazz. And he quotes the poem himself, even, and as the book says, like, I didn't know about this letter. I didn't know that the poem, those words were in the letter, but that's just, that's just who I am, kind of thing. So I hadn't put it in that eloquent of phrasing as you did, but I agree with you. Like, he's very like, no, this is who I am. Like, yeah, it's me,
One thing I find interesting too is so that poem, apparently that was written by Bilbo. It's in Gandalf's letter, and so apparently Bilbo was a poet of some renown in Rivendell. Maybe that Gandalf is using this as a way of saying that's how you know he's the real guy, because your uncle wrote a poem about him.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, the poem is not like some ancient prophecy. It's one that Bilbo wrote.
Oh.
That's just a snippet of the whole thing too, right?
Yeah. Do we ever hear the whole thing, or is that some accessory text somewhere?
I do believe it's in its entirety in the book somewhere. I just don't remember where.
Oh, that's fine. I was just more curious, like if we get it, or is it in some, like I said, supplemental text? Just curious.
I do remember we get it sooner rather than later.
Cool. I also did like in this chapter that there was a little bit more like, how do I want to put this? Like a little bit more cohesiveness of the plan, if you will, between various characters in this chapter. Like the innkeep or the landlord is like in on it. Obviously Aragorn's in on it. and obviously the hobbits are in on it, but Gandalf's like, you know, it's like he was deliberate of like, okay, here's this letter. The innkeeper or the landlord remembers seeing him. He's like, oh, I was told to call you Underhill, you know, all this stuff. And then Aragorn obviously knows about it and has been told to look for them and stuff like that. Whereas like, you know, in the movie, the like, you know, barkeep, innkeeper, whatever is like, well, I haven't seen him for however many months he says. And like, you know, all that stuff. And like, again, like I said, like Aragorn doesn't seem to, he kind of just seems to be there by happenstance in the movie, whereas obviously in the book we learn like, no, he's there intentionally, like he's there looking for them, he's there to help them. Gandalf asked him to help them, you know, and stuff like that. And like Gandalf had like the foresight, whether magical or not, to like leave them a letter in the books to kind of explain some things and stuff like that. Whereas again, in the movie, you get this kind of feeling of almost like abandonment from Gandalf, from like a, well, he told us to meet him here. We did that. He's nowhere to be found. So I did kind of like that like, you know, the landlord came in and brought them like the, what was it? The hot water and the blankets or whatever he brought them. And then like, you know, like he was like in on it. Like he's like, no, don't worry, I won't tell anybody you're here. Like I'll forget you were here. You know, all this stuff. It just, there was a much more like collaborative cohesion between characters, which was kind of cool. Let's see, what else?
He mentions Bill Ferny, the Strider, does at one point, which not a super important character, but it is a character that they will end up meeting, so it's kind of like a good name to put file on the register.
Oh, okay, because I did not recognize that one, unless it's just been so many weeks since we've read that I'm oblivious. But that's not somebody we've met, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Seen him, but we don't know. We didn't know his name at the time.
Oh, okay, very cool. Yeah, because
One of them squinty-eyed fellows.
yeah, because I did not remember that name, and I was like, did I just completely forget a character?
No, yeah, no, we haven't met him formally yet.
Okay, cool.
Another good thing about this chapter. Oh, sorry.
No,
what I was
go,
gonna
Tim.
say is the fact that even though he's in on it with Gandalf, the landlord he's known to be forgetful.
Yes.
So Gandalf had extra ideas just in case. It's like, okay, I have contingencies.
Right.
And it's even noted in the chapter, so it's
right.
nice.
I did also like that they kind of went a little bit more in depth with the ring wraiths and kind of their abilities. Because obviously in the movie we know that they're this magical, mystical, you know, phantom, you know, not wholly there physically thing, right? Like kind of almost akin to what are those things in Harry Potter? The floaty
Dementors?
Yeah, like that you know, they kind of give off that vibe of like this kind of phantom-y, you know, like the robes that they wear are almost just like what give them shape, but there's really not anything there kind of thing. At least that's like kind of, you know, the very shroudy, ghosty Dementor vibes.
Sure.
And everything. And I liked that, you know, there was a mention, I think it's later in the chapter. It was like, what was it? The something breath or whatever, the
Black Breath.
Yeah, and like, cause they found, was it Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mary was like unconscious in the road or whatever. And,
Yeah.
And oh yeah. and only Mr. Brandybuck lying by the roadside. He seemed to be asleep. I thought I had fallen into deep water, he says to me when I shook him. Very queer he was, and as soon as I had roused him, he got up and ran back here like a hare. Oh yeah, let's see. I'm afraid that's true, said Mary, though I don't know what I said. I had an ugly dream, which I can't remember. I went to pieces. I don't know what came over me. I do, said Strider. The black breath. The riders must have left their horses outside and passed back through the south gate in secret. Blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it's, again, like, at least, you know, it's never stated in the movie. And granted, that's a very subtle little detail that, yeah, like, the regular passerbys watching the movie aren't going to know that is like a thing, because if you haven't read the books, like, you know, it's kind of a, you know, who cares kind of detail. But again, it kind of plays more into that, like, oh, they're kind of this very evil, you know, powerful, can manipulate you, if you will, with their abilities.
It is in the movie very briefly, and it's in its most powerful form, because there's kind of like two levels to the Black Breath, and you see it in the movie, in the extended version.
The only version to watch. When?
Exactly. When Mary and I think it's Mary and Eowyn are fighting the Witch King.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
When he gets stabbed and then she stabs him in turn, I'm pretty sure they get hit with it, and that's why they're unconscious until somebody comes and heals them. Spoiler alert.
Oh, that's interesting. See, Mary, I could have totally understood by that, because, like, when he stabs the Witch King, like, there's kind of like his dagger, sword, whatever, like, vaporizes, and there's kind of like a of smoke that comes out of his calf or whatever. And, like, yeah, it makes sense, because, like, we have no real reason why Mary would have been rendered unconscious, other than maybe, like, the pain or shock from whatever happened to his arm, you know, because he kind of, like, clenches it in the movie.
Right.
But I feel like, I'm not saying, you know, you're incorrect here, but it's like, I feel in my mind when I watch the movies up until this exact moment when you explain that, like, I always thought Eowyn just passed out from the sheer fact that her arm is, like, in a gajillion pieces.
Yes, that very well could be. The only reason that I think she also gets hit with it, sort of, is because it's Aragorn that has to heal her, and not just a random healer.
That's fair.
Already in Gondor.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. No, but that is interesting. That like, I like that. Like, even if that is, like, you know, never stated by any supplemental text or like any like, that's cool. Like, to kind of as like a fan theory, like, I like that.
And the reason I say there's two levels, because here Mary just kind of gets up from it, whereas when you get hit with it from the Witch King, it seems like it's a little bit more powerful and it takes more to come out of it.
Side note, that whole scene in the movie when Éomer runs to Éowyn and he's like sobbing. Oh, heart dagger. Ugh, emotions. Like, I just picture my brothers with me, and like, that's just that whole side tangent. Okay. No, but that's okay. That's very interesting though. I mean, obviously I just read this for the first time this week, so never thought of that up until now, but that is really cool. But also, like, on the flip side, you know, like I said, like, there's no explicit statement of black breath is where I was going, but that is cool. I like that. Yeah, and I do like that they also set up the, like, deception. You know, Aragorn's like, oh, I stuffed the beds and placed whatever to look like your heads, and, like, we're gonna be in here, and we're gonna close the doors and the windows, and, like, and we're gonna, like, wait it out. Like, again, minor detail that we can insinuate happens based on the fact that, yeah, it looks like there's hobbits in the beds, and we pan to a scene where they're all laying in bed, and then, you know, it's like, so you can, you know, the untrained eye to the movie could have very, oh my goodness, they're in the beds, like they're gonna get stabbed, the movies are over, you know, kind of thing.
That is a really cool scene though, with
Yes.
the chorus in the background when they're coming in.
Yes.
It's really menacing. That's probably one of the scariest movie scenes I could think of that's like not in a horror film.
Well, and the fact that they, again, to like lean into that very ghost phantom, like, you know, creature of nightmares kind of thing, like they literally float into the rooms.
They don't make a sound.
Yeah, and
Well,
like
part of the thing that really sells that too is before he did the Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson did horror movies. Like that was what he was known for. And so like anytime you have like stuff like that in the films, it really shows. And that's why it's so eerie when he has like them moving silently without motion, like they're just floating. And some of the more horrific scenes with like some of the monsters, like when they get to Shelob, it's terrifying.
That makes a lot of sense.
well,
Yeah,
and
I've never actually seen Heavenly Creatures, and I can't remember what the other ones he did before Lord of the Rings, but yeah, definitely was more the
interesting.
horror thing.
I mean, you could also think, going back to like the ring race and stuff, like the whole Weathertop scene too, when Frodo has the ring on, like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
or like, or when he doesn't have the ring on too, you know, it's how they like slow-mo rise up from the sides and all come at Aragorn and stuff. Like that is terrifying, you know, like,
Or another good indicator of that would be when they're in what's it called, the dead marshes.
yes.
Oh,
He
yeah.
falls into the water.
Yes.
I hated watching that scene as a kid.
Oh yeah. That was one of the last scenes that I think my parents like let me watch when I was like still technically too young to watch them. Like that was one of the ones that they were like the most concerned would give me any kind of like nightmares or anything.
Yeah.
But also the set dressing of that whole sequence was like so eerie and like creepy and gross, and you're like, I don't want to be there. I don't put me down for going there. Let's go around. We'll take the extra steps. So that is interesting. That makes me think about a lot of different scenes a lot differently. A lot more differently, a lot more different. I don't even know. Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess, is there any, I know that like, again, it was a super short discussion, but does anybody else have any like really standout things from this chapter that they really loved, they liked better in the movie, they liked better in the book?
I particularly loved how much Aragorn used the phrase rascal and like how he had a rascally appearance and stuff like that. It's because it's so of its time. It's antiquated to us, but it's to show that he's roguish in appearance, but he's not necessarily a villain.
Yeah.
That's true. Rascally doesn't really doesn't really make you think bad. It just makes you think like
Mischievous.
Yeah. Exactly.
And to that
Like a
point,
nerf herder.
yeah, yes. And to that point too, it kind of also makes him more approachable as a character, because he's not menacing, but he's also not too serious in like an elite hero type of manner either. Like, he's that's a great word for it. Charming. He's somebody that you're like, okay, he seems like you're kind of run-of-the-mill guy. Like he's not this elite king, right? Like he doesn't give an attitude of above you. Which I think even in the movies is very well depicted. Like Aragorn does not want the spotlight on him. from a like you're king of the worlds of men and blah blah blah. Like
he's a lot more humble in the movies than he is in the books, or at least, I mean, he's not prideful in the books, but he's definitely more sure of himself in his role.
Okay, that's something I'll definitely have to keep in mind as we continue to read. But to your, was it Calder, I think it was you who mentioned like what you liked about Aragorn in this chapter. So it's like I think about like how like, you know, he's smiling, he's like, I know who I am, etc., like all this stuff. So it's like I'm definitely gonna have to keep that in mind to that point, like going forward and seeing the character difference from the book version of Aragorn and the movie version. Do you like, without spoiling anything that happens in the books, even though I've watched the movies a gajillion times, for those in this voice call who have read and seen both, do you like, since we're on the topic, do you like movie Aragorn or book Aragorn better?
Oh, jeez.
I don't like either better. I like them both equally, but for different reasons.
Yeah, they're not different characters, but they're definitely different takes on the same character. I grew up with Viggo, and I love Viggo as an actor. I think he's a super cool dude, so I always lean towards them.
Okay. What are
I'm
your?
so glad that
Oh, go
they
ahead, Mark.
changed actors on him, right? I just
Yes.
from having heard that, you know, that he wasn't the original choice, and they'd started filming, and they're like, "Oh, we've made a grave mistake here. We need to recast him right away." It is amazing that they made that, you know, post game time decision for such a winner for that actor for that role.
Yeah. And you look at the entire casting, not to go down a massive tangent rabbit hole here, but you just look at the casting of Lord of the Rings, and it's like, perfection. Like, who else would you have for any of these roles? I don't know.
The only one I've heard complaints about, and I don't know if Tim, Mork, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but the only one I've ever heard complaints about is Elrond.
Really?
I would agree with that, because I think he has a lot of gravitas and he really plays it well. I mean, he doesn't look eternally youthful like other elves, but
Right. Well, I can't remember the actor's name. He definitely has gravitas. Like, you know, every role that he's in, you just want to listen to the guy. And I don't remember what the complaint was about the casting, but I've run into it a number of times whenever I talk to people about it. What were you saying,
it
Mark?
might be just that he doesn't look exactly like as ageless as like the other elves, because he has a more receding hairline, so it's easier to be like, oh, well, he looks old. It's like,
he's ancient. Like, I think.
But I mean, he doesn't look old. He just has a receding hairline. Some people are born
It's
are
genetic.
unfortunate like that.
It's genetic. Male pattern baldness. Look into it.
Or elf pattern baldness, yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Elf pattern baldness.
Elrond's definitely stressed enough to have a receding hairline.
Facts. Have you seen what he's lived through? Did we forget the flashbacks? Like, come on now. I mean, he's like several thousand years old, right? So it's like the man can look a little old. That's funny.
I mean, he doesn't even look old though.
I know. I'm Tim. I'm pulling on that string, buddy. I agree with you. I would never have thought I would never have thought anything of it. I'm just I'm yanking your chain here. That's interesting. But yeah, I think wasn't oh, why am I blanking? Gladiator dude.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Wasn't Russell Crowe in the running for Aragorn?
That's right. That is right. Yeah, he's really mad about that.
That would have been weird.
Yeah, agreed. Like, I can't picture him in that at all.
They offered him a percentage, if I remember correctly.
Why? Because they didn't give it to him?
No, like they wanted him so bad that they offered him, I think, something like 2% of like the gross earnings or some crazy.
Would have been thousands of dollars. Like, oh my gosh, that's insane.
I think he said it would have worked out to be something like $25 million for the role, something like that, at the time.
Which is like way more than that now.
Yeah.
Cost of the dollar, inflation, all that good economics crap. Okay. Man.
Correction, he missed out on $100 million.
Oh, casual. I feel like this is the line from the end of the first National Treasure movie where Riley's like, you know, I got half of 1% actually, or whatever. And I was like, I would have taken like a tenth of a percent. Like that would have still been hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. Yeah, or something. Whatever the line is in National Treasure. Doesn't matter. We're derailing. Okay. Any final thoughts on this chapter? Good, bad, liking how it's set up for the next chapter? Like any final thoughts? Because I think we've covered all the big ones, but any final thoughts? No? Okay.
No.
No.
Okay.
Not for me.
Awesome. I knew it was going to be a short discussion because it's a shorter chapter, but so looking ahead to chapter 11, how many pages are we looking at here? Oh, this one looks beefy. Okay, 90, 70. It's a 20 page one. How big is 12? Oh, book 2. Okay, so 12 wraps up book 1, which is funny that in one book there's multiple books. So it's like 40 page. All right, let's just do chapter 11 because again, even though I know we could physically read 20 pages, 40 pages, sorry, in 1 week, I also know that that discussion would go way longer than an hour. So, let's do chapter 11 for next week. A Knife in the Dark. Dun, dun, dun. And I should be good for next week and everything. So let's plan for chapter 11, and then next week we shall discuss chapter 11.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
And
Yeah.
as always, I majorly appreciate you guys for baby stepping our way through these books because the accountability is keeping me on track. And at almost 30 years old, I'm finally reading The Lord of the Rings. So, I really, really appreciate it. So, all right, friends. Well, I will see you around. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
A pleasure.
Glad to be of service.
Woo! Okay, I'll catch you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, guys. So, again, really short chapter, really short discussion for us at least. But I think really good discussion. I think we had like some very interesting facts. We didn't tangent too much. I liked the comparisons we made between the book and the movie. I just love doing book club with them. Their wealth of knowledge on Tolkien and all things Tolkien-averse and everything is phenomenal. I have learned so much through these book clubs, and as I just mentioned to them, I'm very thankful that they're being patient with me going through this. So, yeah. So if you've stuck with us this long, thank you so much for watching. I record these on Mondays. Plans usually go that way. Record them on Mondays, try to upload them shortly thereafter, probably Tuesday morning at some point on YouTube, which is where you found me here. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and the little notification bell and like and comment and all that good jazz that we do on the YouTube. Trying to chip away, growing the channel. And if you want to swing by one of my streams, same username is here, and say you're from YouTube, that would just warm my heart. So thank you guys so much, and we will be back next week for chapter 11 on more book club discussion. So thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks.